super expensive $200,000 SUV be worth it? Well, I think some are. And behind me is the 2020 Mercedes-AMG G63. Is it worth the full $218,000 that this one costs? Well, let's find out. The first thing you notice when you look at the G63 is, well, how it looks. It's tall, boxy, and vaguely military-like. That is, of course, because it's kind of pretty much based on the 1970s Mercedes G-Wagen military vehicle. Though if you peek inside, it's thoroughly modern. Inside, the G63 is a tactile delight. Listen to the sound these doors make as you just click them shut. These, in my opinion, are the best sounding doors you could buy at any price. And listen to the sound of the locks. It sounds like a shotgun cocking. Everything in here just looks and sounds cool. The vents even just have a nice click as you open and close them. And everything you touch and everything you hear and everything you feel makes you think expensive. Like it should. The leather work is fantastic all over the dashboard. The quilted leather seats are comfortable. They're heated and ventilated as well. There's a tiny little perch of a dashboard so it's not intruding on your passenger space, and the glass all around you is absolutely huge. I also love the selectable mood lighting that fills the cabin, and you can see it even in the daytime. What's special about this is not only can you make it any color you want, but it's color shifting, so it slowly changes color as you drive. And speaking of driving, it's about time we hit the road. Now, the G63 is ostensibly an off-roader, and while no one will probably use it for that, it does have 3 locking differentials in an off-road mode, which is pretty cool. Now, that off-road long travel suspension pays huge dividends when you just want to cruise around and be comfortable, because this thing is very smooth. The wheels have so much travel that it just kind of soaks up potholes and bumps and other road incongruities. It just kind of glides along. It's entirely relaxing. The glass feels like it's 3 inches thick. It prevents all the outside noise from coming in, and you just end up with this little cushy cocoon just with a little V8 rumble wherever you go. Visibility is also nothing short of spectacular. That huge upright windshield, and I can kind of see out of this thing really well. It's got really good visibility for an SUV. But you will notice there is an AMG badge in the back, which means if you put your foot down, it does this. Now, the base G Series costs you $147,000 and change, and that gets you a 416 horsepower 4-liter twin turbo V8. This AMG G63 version also has a 4-liter twin turbo V8, but this one makes 577 horsepower and 627 pound-feet of torque. It is fast. Even though the G63 is enormously heavy, that engine will catapult it to 100 kilometers an hour in just 4.5 seconds. Now, that is fast, but not as fast as you would get from, say, a BMW X5M, which costs less. What does 0 to 60 in 4.5 seconds feel like in a G-Wagen? Well, I think we should show you. That's it. That's all it takes. Now that is fast, but it's not as fast as you would get in, say, a BMW X5M competition, which does it in a much faster 3.8 seconds. And that's because, well, this is kind of an entirely different beast. Whereas the BMW X5 can be thrown into a corner and come out the other side just fine, even if we click it down into sport mode, the G-Wagen never really makes you think it's a sports sedan. It leans everywhere, even in the stiffest and most hardy Sport Plus setting. And the wheels always feel like they're doing 4 different things, which is probably involving making all this weight corner and putting all that power down. It's not graceful, would be the nicest way I can put it through the turns. And it's not really a car that you want to drive fast in the twisty sections. It's just not really built for that, and it shows. To be honest, I do most of my driving in comfort mode, and if you feel like throwing in the turns, I usually put it into sport. Sport Plus just doesn't seem to do much else. although it also has a selectable exhaust. You can choose whether you want the exhaust to be loud and shouty or very loud and shouty. And so basically you just choose how much you would like to annoy your neighbors. It honestly sounds good in either one at low revs and just turns into an absolute roar when you punch it. It sounds great. Mercedes really does. Their V8s just sound different than all the other European V8s. They're just cool. Now basically in front of the driver is one gigantic screen. The days of having an old, gauges and a screen over here are kind of gone for Mercedes. And I like it. The one right in front of me, in front of the steering wheel, is customizable. It can be a tachometer and a speedometer. It can be a central tachometer with some kind of auxiliary gauges off to the side. I can have it pull up the nav. I can have it pull up my radio information. There's lots that I can do with it. And the one above the center console houses most of the infotainment stuff. The Mercedes infotainment system is pretty good. I like it. Decently responsive. It's kind of aggravating that it's not a touch screen, even though it kind of looks like it could be. It's kind of far away, I guess, and instead you have to control it via a little click wheel and a touchpad kind of thing down here on the center console. It works okay, I guess. I'm glad that there are steering wheel controls as well for my thumbs, but in the end, I'd really just kind of rather have a touch screen. I guess it keeps smudges off the screen, which is nice. But this interior overall, as I said before, is just fabulous. But there's one thing that just stands out above the rest, even in this incredible interior, and that is the stereo. I'm giving this a Clayton stereo rating of a perfect 10, and I'm claiming that this is actually the best stereo you can buy in any car at any price. I have never experienced anything quite so good as this Burmeister system in a G-Wagen. And I've been in two of them now, it's not a fluke. But now we do need to talk about the $218,000 elephant in the room, and that is the cost. Now, the G-Wagen already is Mercedes' most expensive SUV, and the G63 is their most expensive version of that SUV. The G63 starts at $195,900, and as you see it, well equipped with a few options here, we're looking at a $218,000 vehicle. When you're talking about is it worth it with expensive cars, I like to ask myself, could I buy this experience for less money? And I don't think you could. I don't think you could. There are cheaper and faster SUVs like the BMW X5M, but they just don't give me that sense of occasion, and they don't look as cool, and they don't make me feel as special as I do in a G-Wagen. There's just something magical about it, and I don't think you could get it for less money. And on that note, I have to say $218,000 for this? Yeah, it's good. I know I also said that about the BMW X5. I'm not going soft. Cars are just really good. So for Driving.ca, I'm Clayton Seams. For more SUV reviews and information, follow us on Instagram and Twitter.